This is the chapter 1 of my book 1970s America, a student's journey to United States. The title of the chapter is Government Scholarship. The desire to go to US was kindled in me in my ninth standard. I used to attend St. Francis High School in Lucknow, where I studied from 3rd standard to Indian School Certificate or 11th class. The school used to show regular documentary films from various consulates every month. Occasionally they would get a film from United States Information Service or USIS in Lucknow. I remember very vividly that once a USIS film on 1964 New York International Fair was shown. I was dazzled by what I saw in the film, since it was a showcase of all the latest gadgets of modern life. Similarly, another USIS film was about a train journey from New York to San Francisco as it went through the breathtakingly beautiful landscape of US. Both these films made a tremendous impression on my young mind. Similarly, when I was in IIT Kanpur studying for my BTech, I used to regularly see films at USIS whenever I came home to Lucknow for vacation. Quite a few of these films were about rockets and space program of 1960s. All these films created a desire to go and visit this great country. Besides, I always wanted to be a teacher and knew that without getting a PhD, good teaching position will not be available. In 1972, during my last semester in BTech in IIT Kanpur, I had applied to quite a number of universities in US for graduate studies. I forgot the exact number, but it was about 10 or so. I got admission in few of them without aid, including University of Florida, Ohio State University, and a promise of aid from Marquette University. However, nothing substantial materialized, so I decided to take admission in MTech at IIT Kanpur only. I did, however, get a couple of jobs through the campus placement in companies, including a handsome paying job in Defense Research Development Organization, all called DRDO. However, the desire to do a PhD in US was very strong, and hence I thought that the best course of action will be to do an MTech at IIT Kanpur and then again apply to US universities. In those days, and I am talking about 1972 and 73, going to US was not easy since IIT was still not a brand name and American universities had not opened up to large scale influx of India students as they did later on. Even though some of my seniors from IIT Kanpur were in good schools like MIT, University of California, Berkeley, Stanford University, etc., getting to them was not very easy. Besides, in 1972, it was very difficult to get any information regarding schools and colleges in US since it took about 2 to 3 months to get a reply to one's queries from United States universities. In our IIT Kanpur library, there was only one book on graduate studies in US universities and colleges, and it was continuously checked out. Even if you got it after great difficulty, there were quite a number of pages torn out of it, and so one never knew which colleges or universities were missing from it. Applying to US universities was not cheap. The application fee for every college or university was about $10. So, when we applied, we gave all sort of excuses for not paying this fees. Some of the clever students wrote beautiful essays detailing the poverty in India and how with tremendous shortage of foreign exchange, they were unable to pay the fees. Nevertheless, all of us used to write that if selected, we would send the fees. Most of the universities bought into the story. Later on, when such essays started pouring into the US university system on a large scale, they got wiser and stopped accepting applications without fees. In June 1974, I was in the final stages of finishing my MTech in mechanical engineering from IIT Kanpur, and even then there was no hope of getting into US, though I had received a few admissions without aid. Meanwhile, I had befriended two American professors, one from University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, another from University of California, Berkeley. Both of them were visiting IIT Kanpur for varying lengths of time, and thus I came to know them well. They both agreed to take me as a graduate student if I applied. In any case, such an event never happened since a golden opportunity of getting Government of India National Scholarship for study abroad appeared. One of my senior colleagues in mechanical engineering department at IIT Kanpur had received the national scholarship. These scholarships were introduced by Ministry of Education, Government of India to help needy students to go to UK or US for their PhD in cutting edge areas of engineering and other sciences. These were very handsome fellowships which gave to and fro airfare plus a princely monthly stipend of $250 per month plus the entire course fees. I applied for the fellowship and lo and behold got a call for the interview sometime in July 1974. The experience of my seniors has suggested that getting it will be a breeze because the largest number of students chosen were from IITs. However, I had not yet finished my MTech and the call letter clearly stated that MTech certificate had to be presented at the time of interview. In any case, I took a chance and went for the interview. During my MTech, I had become extremely interested in solar energy utilization. My MTech thesis was on the development of a novel solar water heater. With the OPEC crisis of 1973, solar energy had become a hot topic in the West, especially US. I read almost everything on it from the material available at IIT Kanpur library. Based upon my readings, I wrote my first editorial article on the latest developments in solar energy in Hindustan, a daily Hindi newspaper published from New Delhi. This timely article was published in 1973 and immediately brought in good amount of fan mail. I wanted to do further research in solar energy. In this connection, I had already corresponded with quite a number of major universities, US universities, which were doing R&D in solar energy, and all of them had advised that I should work with one Dr. Eric Farber in the University of Florida, or UF, since he seemed to have done maximum work in developing useful and working devices running on solar energy. I already had an admission from UF but without aid, and so the national scholarship interview letter was like a God sent opportunity to go to US. So I arrived at the appointed time of 9 a.m. for interview in Shastri Bhavan, New Delhi, where the Ministry of Education of Government of India had its office. The office clerk asked for my MTech certificate, and when I told him that I'll get it in a few days, since I had already submitted my thesis, but the date of defense has not been announced, he simply said that my application was rejected. Even my explanation that MTech defense in IIT Kanpur is an internal matter and is done very rapidly did not cut any ice because he did not know anything about these matters. Being young and impetuous, I told him that he had no authority to reject my application and should consult the committee members regarding it. In fact, I asked him who the committee members were, and he refused to divulge their names. The only concession he made was to give me the name of the chairman of the committee. I felt my explanations and sternness may have had some effect since he went to the committee with my application after underlining heavily by red pencil the clause that I did not have the MTech certificate. After 10 minutes, he came out of the meeting room and told me triumphantly that the committee has rejected my application and what more that no travelling or daily allowance or TADA as is called in the government parlance for coming to the interview would be paid to me. In this hour of crisis, when my whole life seemed to be going down the drain, getting TADA was the last thing on my mind. Yet I was amazed at the bureaucratic efficiency of that clerk who had thought of all issues, including TADA. In fact, TADA to him was far more important than anything else. I still remember those words clearly because they sounded like a death knell to all my dreams of getting an American education. I felt extremely dejected. Nevertheless, in such times the mind races very fast, so I tried to find out whether anybody could influence the committee members to at least interview me. I was very sure that if I am allowed the opportunity to give the interview, then I will be selected. I had tremendous faith in my ability to convince the committee of my candidature and was also prepared to give in writing that I will present my MTech certificate in 10 days' time. Suddenly, I realized that one of my distant uncles, Dr. Atmaram, who was an ex Director General of Council of Scientific and Industrial Research and a very well respected name in the scientific community, might know the committee chairman. Dr. Atmaram, who used to live on Dr. Rajendra Prasad Road, about half a kilometer from Shastri Bhavan. So I rushed to his place, almost ran, and told him about the whole thing. He said that he would call the chairman since he knew him well and that I should go to the interview venue. I somehow felt that Dr. Atmaram might not have the influence that he implied he had, so I should search for some other source. Then I went to the house of my father's friend, Shri Sundarlal. Shri Sundarlal was a senior Congress member of parliament and used to live in Canning Lane, quite a distance from Shastri Bhavan. Sundar Charji, uncle as I used to call him, listened to my predicament and thought for a few minutes. He then dialed a number and told me to go and see one Mrs. Rohan Lal Chaturvedi, the wife of another senior Congress member of parliament who was also a junior minister in Mrs. Indira Gandhi's cabinet. Immediately went to Mrs. Chaturvedi's house and was met by her son Manoj Chaturvedi. He was quite a talkative person and started chatting with me. It was nearly 12:30 p.m. by then and I was getting nervous since the interview time was slipping. I kept on reminding Manoj that I had to meet his mother, but he kept on bypassing the issue. Suddenly his mother appeared and asked me who I was. When I told her who I was, she reprimanded me by saying that what I was doing there when I should have been in Shastri Bhavan and told me immediately to see the Secretary Education, who was the member secretary of the interview committee. I immediately rushed to Shastri Bhavan and waited till 2 p.m. outside the committee room when the lady secretary came out to meet me. I narrated my whole story to her and told her that I was ready to give an undertaking in writing that I will present my MTech certificate in 10 days. I must have talked to her for about 45 minutes but felt that it made an impact on her. She told me to wait in the lobby and that I will be called for the interview at around 5 p.m. Many a times it has happened to me that when the chips are down, there is a tremendous reserve of energy which comes in the form of either actions or words and has the desired effect of getting the work done. My 45 minutes talk was one example of that. I had not eaten anything that day because in such times hunger etc. vanishes. At 5:30 p.m. I was the last candidate to be called for the interview. The committee asked me some basic questions on solar energy, but their tone suggested that I will be selected. So around 6 p.m., I went to Sundaracharyaji's house to tell him the day's events, and after he listened to the detailed account, he told me that I will be selected. From his tone, it appeared that he knew much more than I did. I had therefore always considered my going to US as an act of God mediated through Sundaracharyaji. I have always remained grateful to him for changing the course of my life. Even after my return from United States, he helped me, but then I am getting ahead of my story. That evening, I took the night train without reservation to Kanpur. I have never worked so hard in my life as I did for the next 10 days, and finally, I was able to clear my MTech defense. Getting the MTech certificate was another tricky matter since the Babus in IIT admissions office were as bureaucratic as you could find anywhere. So a small treat of tea and samosas in the local IIT Kanpur canteen did the trick. Those were the happy days when a small bribe of tea and snacks was sufficient to get the work done. I got my MTech certificate at 5 p.m. exactly 10 days after my interview and boarded the train that night for Delhi. For almost half of the journey, I had to stand in the general compartment because there was no reservation. I reached Shastri Bhavan next morning and gave a copy of my certificate to the clerk, reminding him how I have fulfilled my promise given in my written statement. He congratulated me, to which I asked what was so great about the M.Tech degree. He said he was congratulating me on getting the scholarship. I hugged him and thanked him profusely and told him that I would like to take him out to tea, to which he replied that during duty time he cannot go out for tea.